Hey y'all, it's Michael and it's Vlogtember day 23. And today, I thought I would just shoot the shit, I guess they would say, and just talk to you about something that just randomly came to my mind. As you know, for the past few months, starting around February-ish, I started reading short stories every single day. So from different collections and whatnot. And then I started thinking about it and like deeply thinking about it more, and then I started thinking like what are some of my favorite short stories I've ever read before. It just like came up to me and I was like, why don't I do a video about like short stories and what I think about it as like a media and art form. And so first off, let's talk about some short stories I guess I have encountered recently. Now, outside of books, I also realized that I have been reading and experiencing and consuming different forms of short fiction, I guess you could say, and I wrote it down. The one that really inspired me was Yamishibai, which is an anime short type of show. It basically shows anime within 4 minutes, and the theme around Yamishibai is that like scary short stories, like myth, legends, ghost stories type of thing. And this show is exceptional on how it is able to deliver quick to the fact story. The downside of like this, and I guess I'll talk more about it coming up, is that it doesn't have enough time to develop and delve into really character development. Because I do notice that with this anime in particular, that the plot and the push of the plot of the story is really the priority, and that's not a bad thing. I really do like it because I love this show so much. It's 4 minutes every single week that I really do enjoy all of the stories, and while some are better than others, season 3, man, oh, it's I was like, this is how you do a short story collection. I also have been watching, and I am falling behind on it, but I have started Room 104 on HBO. All of the short stories are done in literally one room, so budget. Um, and while there are some great, like, and they vary, some of them are like scary. One of them is like scary, some of them are thrilling. One was genuinely sad and really emotional, and they're pretty okay. I wouldn't like put it up in the echelon of like short storytelling, but I really like it in that in 30 minutes this show is able to tell a really interesting story within this confinement of a room. And I do like that concept because we're basically in one setting throughout all of these short stories, but each one of them are so different. They feel different. They tell The characters are really vibrant and really different. So I really liked it. In addition to that, I've also realized that I started listening to a lot of short story podcasts, and I started consuming it. Things like Lore and Criminal, and then I'll talk about it in another podcast video, but LaVon Burton Reads, which is fantastic. I kind of want to tackle the short story collections and like where he gets some of the short stories from. In case you don't know, LeVar Burton is mainly famous from Star Trek, which I didn't watch, but I mainly known him from Reading Rainbow, which let me tell y'all, growing up, that was one of my favorite shows. Along, hey, careful, tripod, with like Arthur and Between the Books, Between the Lines. You know that that's such a great show. And because I still remember when I was I think it was in third grade, I used to help little kindergartens and first graders like with their reading. And for some odd reason, Between the Lines always came on during that time. You can't be. Can you be seen? If you go more towards the green, the bushes. In case you guys don't know, my cousins live next door to me, and this is one of them right there. Yeah. So there's that. Yeah, they're all gonna subscribe because of you from the background. Oh God. Oh, definitely. Oh, I'll see you later tonight then. I gotta be there. Yeah, because I have to do some video recording. Anyways, so yeah, he mainly did Reading Rainbow, which I really enjoyed. And with this podcast, it's basically he marketed it as like Reading Rainbow for adults. It's basically him reading a short story within like an hour or so, and it's fantastic. I think what makes it so great is because LeVar Burton in general has a great reading voice, so it just makes it that much even that makes it even better. I'm gonna tell you guys some of my favorite short stories that I've ever like encountered as I delve deeper into these short stories. One of them is obviously The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. I love the first time I've ever read this. It takes a twist and a turn, and I didn't know what it's about, and I really like that. And one of my favorite short stories from like in high school that we had to read was The Most Dangerous Game by Richard Cornell. This short story, I still remember it to this day. This short story is amazing, and what it says about like humanity in general, how we are as humans are like beasts and predators. Oh, it is great. And some recent ones that I have encountered that I really enjoyed was like The Spaghetti Year by Haruka Murakami, because in case you don't know, I love spaghetti. Um, One of them I recently read a few, I think it was this year or last year, was the yellow the Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. I really like it. The mindset, it's great. I think it's more of a novella, but I think it is considered a short story. Is Brokeback Mountain by Annie Proulx and Annie Proulx. Proulx? Yeah, Proulx. And I love this. I think it's more of a novella though, and that's also a thing. Like sometimes for me, I know there's like probably like an English defined term of what makes a novella and a short story different from each other. But I think this is more of a novella, but I guess it could be a short story essentially. But I really, this is one of my favorite stories in general. It's about two cowboys. Basically, they become like herd ranchers, so they like herd the sheep the sheep, the horse, and they start to grow fondness to each other, and it starts to the tension between them I really enjoyed. So that's one of my favorite short stories. But what really inspired me for this video in particular was that as of right now, I'm currently reading Blow Up and Other Stories by Julio Cortazar. And here's the thing with short story collections. I feel as though like what you name your short story collection from the short stories of the collection of the short stories, if you're gonna name it that after the book, you need to come correct. It needs to be the best, like the best short story in that whole collect. Oh my god! Oh, I'm near an ant pile. That's why. Oh, okay. It needs to be the best short story in that whole collection. And let me tell you, Blow Up. It's also called something else in they changed the name for it. But let me tell you, oh my god, this short story blew blew my mind. It was fan freaking tastic. Like I was so inspired by this short story. Oh my god. It's about this photographer who is writing a story about this photo that he took. And oh, first off, the story is so compelling, it's so interesting, but the writing is so out of this world. Like it is amazing because I was like, wow, this is one of those. This was the short story that I was like, this is why Julio Cortazar has fame. Like this short story alone, his writing, beautiful use of language, and the way that he was playing around with like tenses and like the format and this mind manipulation that he is actually affecting well, me anyways, the reader. I was like, this is amazing. And one of the best short stories I have ever, ever read. It was in amazing. Also, another short story randomly came up to me. I didn't write it down on here. Was like the Deathly Hallows on Harry Potter. That's actually a short story, and it's a great short story. I really enjoyed it. I started thinking as I was like, oh man, after Blow Up, I was like, oh man, short story. So like a short story essentially is I should have looked it up, but for me, it's always the thing with the short story is that for me, anyways, you have to like. It takes great skill. Let's be honest. It takes incredible skill to write a short story that can stand up to essentially a novel, because like a full-on length novel. If you're writing a full-on length novel, an author has a lot of time, a lot of room. As I was talking about, like a lot of room to expand more on the story. And with a short story, the author has to come correct, and it for me, I really admire it. Here's the thing also, within all those collections, there's always like, well, not always, as you can tell from some of those reviews, but there's always a standout. And within like a correlation between all of those standouts that I've experienced reading with short story collections, is that it's really impactful. Like a lot of the short stories come, and I think that's also great. I guess you could say that there's like no deleted, I guess in like movie form, you could say that there's like no deleted scenes. There's no fluff essentially. With these short stories, they gotta come correct. We gotta bring your A game. Like this is no time to just walk around. And I also want to talk about like as a collection, because I think also putting short stories together to make it to a cohesive collection is also a skill. An author that's been writing short story collection like Raymond Carver, and they put a collection together. I think what's great about short story collections is that as a person who like, for me, I never read Raymond Carver, and so I think it's a great, because he was a short story writer, and I think like even that short story collection I read by Amy Hempel, I think what's great about these is that I get a snapshot of their best and of their best short stories, and I really like those. Like I really like the short story collections from authors I never read from before. But like I did mention, I think it takes great skill to put a collection together. Like whoever puts it together, the editor or whatnot, um, deciding from a an author's huge collection of short stories, which one they should pick and choose, and like will this give the correct voice? I think that I do think that's skill. I mean, which are you going to choose, this one or this one? But I also think short story collections are great also for experimental fiction, and I think like that's really cool because when you're doing, let's say if you're an author and you're writing a short story collection, I think there's always room in there for you to go outside the box and like be different, and I really like it. It doesn't have to be even within the theme, because I do notice me myself finding that like when I'm reading a short story collection, that there's always that one short story in there that I always feel like it wasn't the best, but like I think it's like almost as this the other things are just so good anyways. But I think it is great skill to put a cohesive and great collection of short stories. Ever since I started reading short story collections, I think it's been great for my reading anyways, because I also enjoy that they're I wouldn't say like a fast read, but they always give me this like, ooh, I'm finished, like that type of feeling. I really like that too. So yeah, if you're reading any short story collections, let me know. Or if you have any more recommendations for short stories, let me know. I would love to check it out. Also, if you read any of the short stories that I mentioned, let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts about them. Until then, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye!